All right, YouTube, back to talk about the Vietnam beta. If you watched my previous videos, you know I have not been a fan of hellletloose Vietnam so far. And spoilers, that hasn't changed. But the developers did delay the game, which was the right thing to do. So I figured I would try to play it, see if anything significant had changed, see if my opinion changed at all. And as I was expecting it, nothing really significant has changed. But I wanted to just kind of give my final thoughts before the game comes out. As of this video, it's like around 2 weeks till the game's going to be released unless they delay it again, which I don't see them doing, but maybe they will. There's still a lot of issues. I'm going to talk about first some broad strokes, just kind of general things about the beta, and then I'll go through what my biggest issues are with the game and the reason that I'm not currently planning on playing it. So first, like general note about the betas, there's a few things that need to be kind of put into context. One, there were a lot of bugs, as should be expected from a beta, but this has been like the Team 17 special for a long time. It takes them a long time to fix bugs, and as soon as they fix one bug, a new bug is introduced, and that was true for all of the betas. There were different bugs, different things. In this last one, biggest things were probably there was a bug with command chat, like everybody just sounding like robots. Previously, there was the motion blur bug. There's a lot of different bugs. There was this like weird symbol showing up around the capture points throughout the whole last one. So a lot of bugs, a lot of issues just coming up that way. And secondly, most of the people playing the beta had no idea what they were doing. So that changed how certain things felt, and I think it kind of actually hid some of the big issues, in particular how overpowered the tunnels were, because people just weren't using them. Like there were a few people that are like veterans of hellletloose playing, but a lot of people had absolutely no idea what they were doing, and the quality of games throughout the betas was really, really bad. And I think my biggest takeaway from my time with hellletloose Vietnam so far is that the first game, I love the first game. I played it a lot. It's one of my favorite games that I've ever played. For a certain kind of player like myself, and maybe for some of you watching this video, hellletloose checks these boxes and kind of scratches this itch that other shooters don't replicate in the same way. And it's hard to even quantify, I guess, what those qualities are that make it such a good game for a certain type of player. I think it's some combination, for me at least, of the relatively easy to get into, somewhat arcadey, like gunplay, and the very like distinct roles and necessity for teamwork. It adds a lot of replayability. You can play the game in a lot of different ways, and it makes you feel like you're kind of part of this greater whole in a way that a game like Battlefield, which I think is the closest maybe comparison to hellletloose. When I play Battlefield, I don't feel like I'm really part of a team. I feel like regardless of what role I'm playing, I feel like it's like, okay, I'm going to take the best gun. I have some gadgets that are going to help me kill people, and I'm just kind of mindlessly running with the rest of my team and killing people. And sometimes it feels like that in hellletloose. But when the games are good in hellletloose, you feel like you're part of a squad, you're part of a team, you're all working together. There's different cogs of this machine. It just feels a lot different than a lot of other shooters that I have played. But whatever it is that makes hellletloose such a great game in that way, hellletloose Vietnam is missing whatever sort of essence, like je ne sais quoi, whatever, that hellletloose has. Like that was it just felt like it just lost sort of the soul of hellletloose playing Vietnam. And there are some apparent reasons for that, and some reasons that are, again, harder to articulate, but that was my biggest takeaway. Is that this just feels like whatever I love about Hell Let Loose is not present when I'm playing this Vietnam game so far. And last, like, overarching note, that's probably kind of tied into what I was just talking about. The developers suck. Like, just to put it very bluntly, Team 17 has sucked for a long time. They regularly do things to make Hell Let Loose worse. They change things that nobody asked to be changed. They introduce new bugs, sometimes like game-breaking bugs that they oftentimes take a long time to fix or don't fix at all. And supposedly there's supposed to be a different development team within Team 17 for Hell Let Loose Vietnam, but you could have fooled me. Like, it just felt like same shit, different day with the developers so far as their like confusing design decisions, their terrible communication. It just feels like it's just the same stuff that we've all been dealing with for a long time. And I think for a lot of Hell Let Loose players, we're so used to that with them. We just kind of like, oh look, they just fucked up our team select screen. It looks like shit now. And then we just move on because what else can we do? Because we love the game, right? But I think it's fair to expect a little bit better from Vietnam to like fix some of the mistakes and the kind of negative patterns that developed with the first game. But it feels like it's almost the opposite, that the development from like all levels just feels like it's going in the wrong direction. And it's just where it leaves Hell Let Loose Vietnam feeling like it's not really a successor to Hell Let Loose. It feels like it's like this cheap knockoff. That's what I felt like after playing these betas. But let's talk about some specific issues. And first of all, I'm going to get, I think, the big one out of the way, performance. I think a lot of people and the developers are sort of tunnel visioning on the performance of the game, which in fairness was bad and needed to be improved. But for me, performance was not like a big focus. I was getting like kind of middling okay performance throughout the beta, all of the betas. And I've seen some people saying that for the last beta test, like the performance is significantly improved. And I don't know what they're talking about. It feels very similar to me. I think I was getting like 10 more FPS-ish, something like that with the current one. So it definitely improved like a little bit. I didn't notice anything else though in terms of like smoothness and bugs and different like graphical issues that were coming up. It just felt like the same thing to me. But caveat with that, I have a pretty decent newer PC. I can definitely imagine that if you're playing on an older PC or also maybe console, the performance is like seemingly better, and maybe it's more of a significant improvement. But for me, performance was not a big deal. It's not even like the top 10 of problems I have with the game. The first biggest problem that I have is how unbalanced the factions are. And more so than just the fact that the factions are unbalanced, and this is NVA is way stronger than the US faction. More so than just the fact that that is the case, the problem is that developers don't seem to care or be interested in fixing it. And for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about or why the NVA is overpowered, the game is supposed to be asymmetrically balanced. So the sides don't have the same tool set. But asymmetric is not supposed to mean one side is just stronger than the other. It's supposed to mean they have different stuff that is then balanced out in power level, right? But it's not even close to the case with the game right now. The big differences between the factions. The NBA have a tunnel system, this new tunnel mechanic. And the tunnels are just teleporters, like straight up. They're a structure that you place down for free, like an outpost, and it allows you to teleport to other tunnels or garrisons for free. There's no cost, no supply cost. They have a decent cooldown, but any officer and the commander can build these tunnels as soon as that cooldown is up, and you can connect up to 5 tunnels / garrisons in a network. All you do is click them on the map together, and you are off to the races, teleporting throughout the map. To balance this, the US side has helicopters, and helicopters are so bad. And I already know there's going to be people saying, no, the helicopters are not bad. And they're going to list like 10 requirements for the helicopters to be useful. Like, you just need a good pilot, and your team needs to be coordinating, and the helicopter gods need to be smiling down on you, and the enemy tanks need to be blind, and then the helicopters can be really, really useful. But that's the issue, is that the tunnels, like a bonobo that I taught to play hellletloose could use those tunnels effectively and just steamroll the game. Whereas for the helicopters, it requires so much to be going right and so many just steps to take to make them useful. And it's still like 10% of the usefulness of the ability to freely teleport across the map. Like, just think about this, guys. If I were to tell you in the first game that I'm going to rebalance the factions, I'm going to give the US floating transport trucks, but don't worry, I'll throw like a half-track turret onto them. And to balance that out, I'm going to give the Axis free-to-build teleporter nodes that allow them to traverse the whole map for free. You would think I'm fucking crazy, right? Like, that is not even in the realm of a possibility for anyone that has played hellletloose. But this is exactly what is happening with Vietnam. If I were to imagine ways to try to make one faction overpowered, like the most overpowered possible imbalance, it would start with like I'll just give the one side cheats, right? I'll give the one side auto aim and invincibility hacks and whatever, right? And the next most powerful thing would be, something like one side only can use pistols and the other side gets their full rifle kits. It wouldn't take you that long to get to one side gets to teleport for free. Like, that's not a big jump from wall hacks and invincibility. So it's just insane that the developers decided to design the game this way. And as a concept, it's like almost impossible to balance, because just as an idea, the tunnels are just so much innately stronger than the helicopters could ever be. And I've seen this get talked about a little bit more, but I think the reason it's not getting talked about massively is because of how they weren't being utilized in the betas. But once the game comes out and people just have a baseline understanding of how the game works, NVA is never going to lose. It would be impossible for NVA to lose. There would have to be such a massive skill imbalance on the teams that it's an insurmountable barrier for US to win when the enemy team has those tunnels. So what would I do about this? The best thing would be to remove the tunnels from the game. NVA still has strengths, like the AK was way better than the M16 and the betas. If you just remove the tunnels, left the helicopters, it would still be relatively balanced. Now, I know they're not going to remove the tunnels, but the next best thing to do would be to turn them into a faction-specific commander ability, like the Soviet rocket strike, right? Just make it a commander ability. And limit it to that. Again, I doubt they're going to do that. The next best thing is just to nerf the tunnels into oblivion. There's not really a way to buff the helicopters. You'd have to just make the tunnels cost supplies. You'd have to limit the amount. You can currently have 15 on the map, which is insane. Like, make it so there's only 5 on the map or something. Limit their range. Just nerf them. Nerf the cooldown. But even then, they're still going to be stronger than the helicopters, so we'll see. Again, the devs have shown very little interest in doing anything about this so far. The only significant change to the tunnels has been they added this like loading screen where it shows your character like crawling through the tunnel instead of it just being a black screen, in the like 3 seconds that it takes to press the tunnel and teleport. So yeah, good job, devs. Like, now it totally makes sense that my character crawled like 800 meters across the map in the span of 3 seconds, like some kind of baby Flash or something. So I would say that's the biggest problem with the game. The second biggest problem throughout the betas, and it has not changed in the last one, is the audio. On all levels, the audio is terrible for this game. The directional audio doesn't work. The spatial audio doesn't work. There are times where you would think, like, I'm right next to an enemy spawn, I can hear it, and then you would run like 50 meters towards it, and you still wouldn't find it. You could hear helicopters across the map, like 500 meters away. They would sound like they're above your head. The guns sound terrible. One of the really annoying things with the audio is that the game does this thing where it almost like it mutes itself when you get shot, which I think is supposed to be some kind of weird suppression effect. But it made it so when I got shot and killed, I had no idea where the shot came from. When I was getting shot at, no idea what direction it was coming from most of the time. Like in the first game, when I get killed, I can tell my teammate, yeah, a guy to the east just killed me, right? And in this game, it's like I had no fucking idea most of the time. I'm going to talk about the maps and the setting later, but the problems with the audio made the maps very, very difficult to traverse. Because there was so many bushes and like you were limited on how much visual information you could use, there just wasn't enough helpful visual information to determine where people were. You really were relying on audio to like help with that, and without that it was so painful. Like just walking through bushes, I would hear people nearby but have no idea where they are. It was really painful to play the maps because of the audio. So to fix this, they need like a total overhaul of the audio. Supposedly, I think they're supposed to be working on that, but so far it hasn't changed. There isn't anything from first closed beta to now. Like the audio is still awful. It's some of the worst I've ever heard in a shooter. Next big issue I have, that the more I have used it and thought about it, the more I've disliked it. I really don't like the new customization and progression system. So the way it works for this game is that you can now customize your loadouts. You can change your guns. You can change your like utility, your lethal grenades. And there is a weight system in place to determine how much you can carry. And there's really two big problems with this. One, as I alluded to before, I think one of the strengths of Hell Let Loose was the very distinct roles. And when you can just mix and match guns, like now you got snipers carrying around shotguns, you got squad leads carrying around ammo, which you really needed in this game because like you barely had any ammo for your guns. But when you mix and match everything, the roles are no longer very distinct, and it starts to feel, again, kind of more like I feel when I'm playing Battlefield, and this takes away something that feels like it's a pretty important element of Hell Let Loose, this very distinct class system where each player is playing a different role and contributing to the team in a different way. The other problem with it is that it's implemented very, very poorly. So the way it works is that with this weight system is that at level 1, you have, I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it's like you have a small amount of units of weight, and each element of your kit has a weight. So like, for example, a primary gun costs 3 weight, right? And when you first start, it's like you have, let's just say 5 weight at level 1. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that. So when you first start playing at level 1, you can't carry barely anything. You can carry like a primary weapon and like maybe a grenade or an ammo box, right? Now, as you level up, you unlock more weight and you can start to carry more stuff. So essentially it's shifted away from, as you level up, you unlock new classes and new styles of play. And it's turned into, as you level up, you unlock the ability to have a full kit. Like imagine in the first game, it's like I'm level 1 AT, I can only carry a rifle. But once I hit level 5, now I can carry a rifle and a rocket launcher. But once I hit level 10, now I can add on a grenade, blah, blah, blah. So it basically has made it so higher level players have just an objective advantage over lower level players. You can make an argument that some of the classes give you an advantage, like The one that comes to mind in the first game is Assault Level 9, the SDG Satchel class, like clearly a good class, right? But it isn't like a just objective advantage over the other classes. Everybody has like a toolkit that is relatively equal that they're using. I really just don't like the new progression system. What I would do, my preference would be to go back to the previous system where you just unlock static loadouts as you progress. I would just make it so it's not such a grind to unlock them. Like, it shouldn't take me 10 years to unlock Assault Level 9. I would be much happier if the progression was more around cosmetic stuff. Like, you just unlock different cool cosmetic things as you progress. For this kind of game, I don't think it's important to lock different loadouts and tools behind levels. I know some people will disagree with this take, but I think it was a big problem. I really didn't like the new progression and loadout system. Another very big issue was the UI. The UI in general for the game is like worse in it's like every conceivable way than the first game. The tactical map was a big culprit for this. I think they made it so there's less of a delay when you open it, but it's still like it looks really out of place in the Vietnam setting. It looks like it's straight pulled from Battlefield, this tactical map. The last Battlefield game, it feels like they just copy the map from that and put it in this game. It's very cluttered. It's hard to get information smoothly. It's very important in hellletloose to be able to quickly open your map, mark things, get information, and then go back to your fighting. It's very clunky to do that in Vietnam. I also really, really dislike the loadout and team select, sort of all that part of the UI. In hellletloose, the first game, your map, your loadouts, and your list of squads is all in one screen and easily accessed as you are trying to deploy. In Vietnam, your map takes up your whole screen. There's a separate button to take you to the loadout selection, and then there's another thing you have to click on to then click the loadout, and there's a separate button you have to press to get to the squad select screen, which then takes you away from your map. So when you're trying to pick your squad, you can't even see the map. Like, if I'm switching to some outpost, I can't even see if that outpost goes down until I click the squad, then go back to the map. It's very just clunky, and I would say that for the first game, the UI is actually kind of a strength. I really wish they just copied the stuff that worked from the first game. My hope for this game had been that they're gonna take what is good about hellletloose and add onto it. Quality of life improvements, new systems, but everything just feels worse somehow. Some other issues in no particular order. The gunplay still doesn't feel very good compared to the first game. I said in the previous video, it feels like laser tag. Really didn't like it. Not a fan of the guns. No weight to them, no kick to them. It just, I don't know. Again, it's hard to quantify exactly what the problem was, but for me, the guns felt not as fulfilling to use as they do in the first game. Another problem is just that it's very unclear still if the developers are going to be able to utilize this Vietnam setting and make distinct, interesting maps or not. We've played a few different maps so far in the betas, and there will be a few more when the game comes out. Not that many, but there will be a few more. They were different, but the bones of the maps felt very similar. It was like you have the different hard points in the different sectors, where in the hard points there would usually be some kind of interesting thing to fight around, some kind of US like encampment. In the last one there was like these big airfields that you were fighting around. But it was like there was these small areas in the hard caps that were interesting, just surrounded by oceans of bushes. It was like little islands of interesting stuff, bushes everywhere else. Throw in a river somewhere, and then you have a map. Like, that felt like the design philosophy. It didn't feel like particularly interesting to me. And I know there, again, people will disagree with this, but the bushes are not fun to fight in. Like, when 80% of your map is bushes, it's not a pleasant experience to try to fight and push through that. For some people, again, maybe you like laying around and shooting people in the ankles or whatever, but it's not fun. I know it is possible to make a fun Vietnam video game. Like, a lot of people will reference Rising Storm, but I'm not seeing the vision from the devs. Not seeing it at all. This game so far feels like kind of dumbed down Hell Let Loose, throw a Vietnam coat of paint over it and then just cater to Battlefield players as much as possible. That's what it felt like so far to me. And there were a lot of other minor issues with the UI. Like when you're locked into deploy, you can't even like look at your menu. You can't do anything. You're just locked in. You have to unlock. You have to unlock the deploy to then try to click anything, change anything, which is super annoying. Like some default key bindings are changed from the previous game. And there are also lots of like console specific issues that I'm not getting into because I'm not a console player, but I know there was a lot of issues console players were having too. And there are also other minor issues, guys, lots of other little things. Just off the top of my head, like the movement system is different in a way that is not great in my opinion. They sped everything up. You can swim at like a million miles an hour. It's nice to be able to swim. It's not nice that it now feels like everybody's like this superhuman zooming around the map. Like there's weird design decisions like for the MG, when you mount on something, you automatically have to ADS, which is just, again, like why? It just makes me feel like the devs never played hellletloose. Is really what it feels like. But that's where I'm at with the game at this point. I don't plan on getting it or playing it. I will keep playing the first game. Maybe in the future if things change, like the main reason I would have to buy the game would be if a bunch of my friends that play hellletloose switch over to Vietnam. I'll think about it, but for now, that's where I'm at with the game. It's pretty disappointing. Let me know in the comments what you guys think.